Cody Huhn from Public Land Whitetails. I grew up in Michigan hunting 2 and 3-year-old bucks on small pieces of property and sections of public. I did that for a while. I think that really helped hone my craft on those micro adjustments and understanding minimal movement, which has transitioned into coming out to the Midwest. I've gotten into a lot of like the back end of the hunting industry, working with like Midwest Whitetail, did some work for like Real Tree, bunch of other shows, currently doing a lot of work with the Rival. And all of that has kind of culminated to being out here hunting public out of necessity, falling in love with it, and then taking my knowledge of those micro movements, small property movements, and yes, the younger age class, but that more pressured at the time in Michigan kind of age class, and being successful there, learning about mature bucks through the industry, and then combining them and starting to do a lot of bed hunting and just sliding in and getting really close to a lot of these bucks. I branched out to some of the other Midwest states, a lot of Wisconsin. I got a lot of buddies up there. I just kind of bounce around and I try to shoot or harvest some pretty big bucks off of public land. And I'm always after giants, but this season I'm after a couple absolute mondos, just trying to get on them and see what I can get done.
What kind of work were you doing for Midwest Whitetail and Real Tree?
Did the internship about 4 years ago now for Midwest Whitetail. I was one of the interns. I did a lot of the back end editing, did a little bit of filming with Jared and Mike. And then I did the Real Tree 365 series. So like 4 or 5 years ago, I edited about 80% of that series.
I was looking at your Facebook group. Looks like you're really starting to stack up some followers.
Yeah, it just rolled over on the group itself. It rolled over 84, 85,000, I think, just the other day. And then I have a page, which is more of just my personal stuff for hunting content, which is about 35, 36,000. So I wish I could pull those numbers off of YouTube, but it's about impossible for me.
Well, Facebook's pretty tough to grow. TikTok's the easiest.
Yeah, I used to have a TikTok, had about 17K followers, and then it got hacked or something. End up losing it. Everybody says Facebook's hard to grow on, but I've always pulled really great numbers off of Facebook. YouTube is difficult for me. I mean, put it this way, I pull so few numbers off of YouTube that they just departnered my page. So I lost all my monetization as I'm about to drop my kill hunts for the 24 season. I'm like, well, there goes $500 gone. I'm like, great. So now now I have to earn the partnership back, which I'm like, my 2 kill videos will probably get me the watch hours to earn it back. I have the subscribers. I have about 3,500 followers there, but I'll have to get the watch hours back and then I can get remonetized. Facebook's, it hasn't been great to me. I'm like partially demonetized just because Facebook's kind of dumb. You get a lot of copyright claims with the music I use for Artlist, and I've fought them. And even though I've won, their automated system marks as a strike and call it unoriginal content. And I'm trying to make money off of it. And so for 3 years, I was just completely demonetized. Millions of views across videos. I'd pull like 15 million views a month on the page during like the hunting season and not a single dime for 3 years. And I just got partially monetized like 3-4 months ago.
So this is your personal or the group?
Both of them are incorporated together. So I make ad revenue off of both of them.
How does that work?
Yeah, so it's under essentially the same thing. So I make anything I post via the page because it's connected. I can also post into the group as the admin and I'll make some ad revenue off of that. But my analytics are all shown predominantly in my business suites based on just the page. So if I wanted to see the analytics specifically on the group, I'd have to go into the group, click the post, pull up these specific analytics for that. I couldn't even tell you. I'm pulling like 15 million views in a good month just off the page. If I went into the analytics of the group, each post is 25,000 to 300,000 views. And I couldn't even tell you how many posts are going up a day.
You a full-time social media guy?
I have to be right now. I'm the only admin to it. I mean, I'm sitting there, look like a goober all day on my phone, probably playing with it because it's 50 people reporting somebody's comments on this and somebody butt hurts this guy. So I get 15 spam messages, delete this. And, and I'm like, guys, unless it's important, quit DMing me. Can I remove this guy? Or like, stop. 80 posts approved in a day. Plus I have to run the automated system.
What do you do during the day? Do you have a day job?
I mean, I do the video editing for other shows like The Rival.
Okay. That's kind of your full-time gig.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're in college, huh?
Yeah, part-time in college for aviation, like a bachelor's degree in aviation science, working to get my CFII helicopter pilot certification. And then the other part-time, I'm editing for shows. A lot of big editors send me a lot of small content, and I'll just do like a episode for them and kind of get by. Like I said, I don't really make anything off the hunting show. It costs me more than anything 90% of the time. So, but I do get some ad revenue occasionally.
There you go. So in Iowa, hunting probably not quite as good as Michigan, but it does what it needs to, right?
Yeah, Michigan was rough. I'm glad I got out of there, but it was good to kind of cut my teeth on the deer up there for sure.
The gal, her episode's getting launched tomorrow. She says Michigan's awesome to hunt in if you just want to kill deer. If you want to kill a big buck, it's not the place to be.
100%. Yep.
Overpopulated with deer.
If you look at the numbers, they have like 2.5 million deer up there versus Iowa has about 400,000, roughly varying. Some years you hear like 460, some years you hear like 380. It just depends on what statistic you're looking at. So Michigan and Wisconsin too, chock full of deer. I mean, absolutely stacked full of deer. Great place if you want to go kill a deer, but if you want to kill like a big deer, the age class just isn't there.
There's that many more deer than there is in Iowa.
These were numbers, you can fact check it. The 2.5 million was back when I was living there years ago, but I know it's at least 3, if not 4 times more deer. Iowa is the worst state for deer numbers in the Midwest. Look up any other state. Iowa's going to be the lowest, which blows my mind because then you have farmers who complain about the deer herd eating their crop, but Iowa has the most crops, like agriculture, per deer. So like you look at deer, it's like 400,000 deer, and then like 70% of Iowa is agriculture. And then you look at states like Michigan where there's far less agriculture, but insanely high deer numbers. Yet you don't have the same correlation between farmers complaining.
Yeah, I'm looking right now. That's crazy. So in spots of Michigan, you're talking 30 deer per square mile. Iowa's 15. Holy crap. It's not even close. Same with Wisconsin.
Wisconsin and Michigan have a ton of deer.
I think Iowa used to have a ton of deer.
Used to have a lot more.
When I was out of high school and we were shotgun hunting, I bet there's probably twice as many deer as there are now.
Yeah, that's what I've heard from all the old timers and the guys who have lived here. It'd be nothing to go to a field and see 30, 40 deer a night. And now 10, maybe 15 if they're lucky, depending on where you're at, even less. And if you look at the numbers and the herd quality, the late 90s and 2000 to 2010 was fantastic in Iowa. It was like right after that bad 2012 EHD outbreak. That's when Iowa started to nosedive. And then it happened again in 14. And then they started implementing new laws and switching things up. And Iowa started becoming super, super recognizable. And it just seems like it's gotten consistently worse. And when I made the comment earlier that Iowa public is good, Iowa public fence sitting the right property is good. I tell guys that all the time. I am not ashamed to say that both these bucks basically were fence sitting. I mean, I didn't directly shoot them on a fence, but I was within 100 yards of a fence line. And I expected them to either be coming off of or going to private. And this was the only one that was like deep public. And I say deep public, but I mean, you could probably go 500 yards and there was 2 different fence lines, and a lot of the big bucks I chase are close to specific private properties. So that's the only reason why is because you have people who truly manage and you can get in tight on correct spots,
I was just getting on Google Earth to show something, and it's like, upgrade for this and this. I'm like, have they ever charged for Google Earth? I thought it was always free.
Yeah, I thought it was free too. I didn't know that.
I didn't pay attention. I'm not paying for that. I was just going to show you something. So like where I grew up, and this is where I still hunt. I need to do better when I make the YouTube videos of doing the screen share, but this is kind of give you an idea area I hunt. So this is the property I hunt right now. So it's 35 total acres, but this property right here, we'd push it like second shotgun season or late muzzleloader. And I kid you not, we'd push 100 deer out of here. Easy. I don't even know what the size is.
Yeah, that's kind of similar to the stuff I grew up on in Michigan, where most of it was broken up and you'd have 20-acre woodlots, 30-acre woodlots, 10-acre woodlots, and there's nothing but ag in between, ditch rows connecting them. Everything was farmed basically. And I was lucky enough to have, like growing up, that I had a couple of neighbors who also had some property. So we all kind of shared a bigger deer herd than usual. But yeah, that's kind of the properties that I grew up on. And that's predominantly why I still hunt marsh stuff and agriculture stuff here in Iowa, just because that's more what I'm used to. I don't get too much into the big timbered stuff. It's just not my forte.
Any idea why this held so many deer at only being 5 acres?
Probably the only spot along a big area around that has cover that time of year. In the summer, a lot stuff's a lot more grown up and ag in there. And once it's all taken off, not a whole lot of cover.
Yeah, people push these small pieces around, then when they get in here, they can see a long ways.
Yeah.
So it's real flat up there. They get in there and, people can see them, but they can also see people coming, so they can get away pretty easy. So have you been out yet this year?
Wisconsin. I've been hunting in Wisconsin. I haven't thrown a hunt yet here in Iowa. I've just been waiting for the time. It's been too warm, and like I was telling you, I want to do an observation sit, but we got this cold front and it piss and rain all day, and I'm not one to mess my cameras up with the rain, and the observation sit wouldn't have been the best with the wind anyway. I would have been really risking it, and so I don't want to blow that buck out. So I've been in Wisconsin though. Had multiple encounters with some decent bucks. Funny video will come out of that for next year. I center punched a tree, a real nice giant Wisconsin pine tree. So that'll be a great video for 25. So been fun up there. Got on some good bucks, like I said, and nothing exceptional that I would say, but it's early and I was just happy to be bed hunting and successful bed hunting if I would have wanted to take those caliber of bucks.
You must have a good set of rubber boots the way you're hunting.
Just depends, kind of, but I more just let my feet get wet. I like to have really tight, small boots so I can be quiet, especially for bed hunting. And waders and big rubber boots just make so much noise getting in. So a lot of times I just deal with my feet getting wet and I throw my boots on the dryer at night, every night.
Interesting tactic.
Gets me a lot closer.
I suppose that probably makes sense.
So I get significantly closer and significantly quieter. I was gonna say if I'm really close, and I've done this on the channel too. I have a couple videos. I'll just take my boots off and I have like an extra pair of thick socks on and going like that. Dead quiet. Dead quiet. The biggest thing you got to do is like moving through brush.
Well, the leaves got to be tough, especially in the fall.
I don't hunt a lot of timbered stuff, so there's not too many leaves. It's usually just marshy grass and stuff like that. So it's just the moving your feet through the grass. You just kind of push through a line, push to the side, push through a line, push to the side, and just real slow. Rather than stepping, you just got to push through, move the grass over to the side, lay it down. Almost like you're swimming with your feet. Got really close to a lot of bucks.
Sometimes a little wind helps too.
I won't do that if you don't have any wind. I mean, I'll still bed hunt, but I'm sitting a lot farther away. If there's no wind, you're not getting close.
I'm assuming you're wearing Sitka out there.
I can't afford Sitka. I wish. If they want to sponsor me and give me some stuff, I'd love it. I have Scree right now. It was given to me. So all the gear that I have is either come from somebody giving it to me for free, like a friend or a sponsor, or like paying me through, I'll edit for them and then they'll pay me with product that they get, so I have no money to run around and do any of that with. That's why I'm in college.
I was at Shields a couple months ago and they're selling the Sitka Stratus jacket for like $170. Makes sense now. I see they just came out with a new jacket. I think I paid like $350 for my bottom and top. It's good stuff though. It's pretty good stuff.
That's like a whole entire week and a half trip to Wisconsin for me if I want to hunt. Assuming I've already have the tag, I'll car camp and just eat cold soup and literally sleep in my car for just the gas back and forth and some odds and ends for that.
What really did it for me is I had Under Armour for the longest time and it was like 45 degrees. I'm sitting out there like, man, I'm freezing. That doesn't cut any of the wind. I'm like, I can't take this anymore. So I went out and asked somebody like, what kind of jacket should I buy? And they're like, oh, Sitka. So of course I went out and bought the Fanatic, the warm Fanatic. Like, man, I'm going to be toasty. I was sweating my balls off. I ended up going to the lighter Stratus. Just having that windproof, man, it's a game changer.
Yeah, for sure. A couple of my garments, I mean, they're not windproof, but I'll put like one of those really old windbreakers that just make a ton of noise. Then I'll layer a shirt over that and then put my top over that. You go out there and just that, like, be completely warm, man, that wind will kill you. You can get rid of that wind. It can be about 10 degrees and I'll be good to go. As long as there's no wind, that's what gets me every time.
Probably sound like George walking in for his interview on Seinfeld. You probably haven't seen that show.
I have an idea of what you're talking about, but yeah.
He bought a suit and they're walking and like,
yeah.
they're like,
you got to layer it, man. You got to put a couple shirts over it. That's what I do. Put your shirts over it and it's kind of quieter.
My first camouflage was so noisy. Fleet Farm special, man. Let's back up a little bit. How'd you get started? How long have you been hunting?
Oh, man, I've been hunting since I could pick up a bow, pick up a gun. My parents let me run around on the farm with like a little 22, when I was like 6 years old. Truly deer hunting. I was like 9.5. You had to be 10. You had to almost be 10, but the way my birthday fell, I could be 9.5 and hunt with a bow. I've been hunting since I was 9, like deer hunting, truly deer hunting. But before that, I'd go out with my father. I didn't get super into it, as in like hunting big bucks, until my teen years. That's when I really started getting into trying to hunt bigger deer, which that back in Michigan was, like I said, 2.5-year-old deer, 3.5-year-old deer sometimes. I think I may have shot one 4-year-old buck, big bodied, just maybe the genetics weren't there. Hard to tell. Wasn't aging them back then. I've been hunting forever now. I'm 30, so I'm getting up there, unfortunately. Yeah, just been in the industry. I took a little break just after high school for the military, and once I got back from that, I've been full force now for 8 years, 9 years, just constantly out in the woods hunting. And the channel come alive about 7 years ago, just kind of as a way to document things. And back then I was hoping to have my channel take off. Now I'm like, yeah, it's probably not going to pay the bills. It's just more of a hobby. Yeah, I've just been working on that for the past 7 years. And like I was saying earlier, I got tired of shooting the bucks in Michigan. I wanted to hunt a higher age class, something that I could see on TV. And so I took that internship out here in the Midwest in Iowa for Midwest Whitetail. And that was about 5 years ago. And been grinding it out ever since out here on public land, big bucks. Everybody thinks that they can just start their own channel and become famous. I'm like, dude, I'll do all the editing for the show and take care of all the back end and stuff and just need the content, but hard to find reliable guys. So it really comes down to just me and trying to get out there more and kill some more bucks in other states. But I always get caught up with chasing specific big bucks. Like I was on the Caesar buck whole show. I have like 2 years on the channel about chasing this buck and multiple encounters. And it takes up 80% of my season chasing this one deer. So I never really got out to do much else. And I just finally started pulling away, branching out. And I killed a good Wisconsin buck. I killed this buck. And now this year, like I said, I'm on Wisconsin. Almost got it done. I'm going to end up going back. I'm on this big guy. And so I'm jumping around now and hopefully adding more kill hunts to the channel. It's doing well on Facebook. It's just not great on YouTube.
I was going to say, if you had a team put together, that might help. I'm not much of a hunt behind camera guy.
Yeah, more content in terms of kill content. That's my biggest, holding me back feature right now.
Plus, I don't hunt public, so I'm out.
I've hunted private occasionally here and there. I'll still get out there and do it if I'm struggling on the public. I want to kill a big deer at the end of the day. That's the priority.
Yeah. Yeah, public's a whole different animal, isn't it?
It's its own thing, that's for sure. Private and public can be just as hard in their own perspectives in different scenarios. There's a lot that goes into. I heard somebody somewhere tell me this, and I really liked it. On private land, you're trying to get the deer. How do they say it? You're trying to get the deer to come to you, and so you're manipulating them to come to you. A lot of times, there's like food plots and things like that. And then on public side of things, you're trying to go to the deer. You're trying to get close to the deer. So it's like two different perspectives. It's just different worlds. They hunt different. The deer bed different, roughly. They feed different. The times of the year and the season, they move differently. Anybody who's hunting private land and can kill big bucks, it's just as difficult in their own way. But public is its own thing. And I just personally prefer the public land. I think there's a lot of adversity there, and I like that.
I think you're probably the 30th person I've interviewed for this podcast. And there's a lot of people that rely solely on public. Like a large majority.
Well, there was a big, I guess you could call it like a hype phase with like the hunting public and whatnot. And then a lot of channels switched over to that public land hunting kind of phase. Would like to say that that'll die out, but I think public's here to stay at this point. I think it's always going to have a big following now. I've actually truly fallen in love with it just because I enjoy every day being able to hunt a new tree. It's an adventure. You never know what you're going to find. I've gone to places, especially in other states like Wisconsin, where I thought it would just be terrible. I've gotten there and I've gotten on 150-inch bucks. Wow, this is amazing. And I like that surprise, hunting a new area, seeing something new. It's never boring per se. It's like an adventure. You never quite know what you're in for. And I love that.
What percentage of Michigan was public compared to Iowa?
A lot. I wouldn't have a number right off the top of my head. Yeah, but a ton of Michigan is public. I'm sure you can quickly search it up. They call it state land up there. It's not really inherently public land in Michigan. It's state land because predominantly most of it's owned by the state. It's a significant portion more.
A kid I was talking to from Arkansas, he was telling me about this property, this public property that they had to draw on Fort Chaffee or something. They'd get up early on opening day, and there'd be 100 vehicles waiting in line to get in. I'm like, how big is this piece? And we got to look, and it was like 25,000 acres. I'm like, holy crap. It's like the whole state of Iowa. I mean, you might have 40 acres here or there in Iowa public, but nothing like that.
You got like Red Rock and Rathbun, and they call them 20,000 acre pieces, but they're not because they include the lake in it, in both of them. And so if you take the lake out, they're 5,000 acre pieces, maybe 8,000 acre pieces. So, and those are basically the biggest in the state. I mean, you have the Mississippi corridor too and whatnot. But I mean, man, without looking it up, I'll tell you right now that Michigan, I can't remember, a very small percentage of Iowa is public. And you go to Michigan and I guarantee it's 4 to 5 times more of the state is public land than Iowa. It's vast areas of Michigan are just nothing but state land.
Iowa and Kansas are probably both in the top 5. I think Kansas is right around 2 and Iowa's 2.5 to 3% public.
The saving grace with Kansas, though, is that they have a lot of like IHAP walk-on. A significant portion of it is privately owned, but you can go and hunt it. So even though they're hovering like that 2% range, technically Kansas is lower on actual true public than Iowa. But if you incorporate the permission private land walk-on that's huntable as well into that, it's like up in Iowa, it's called IHAP. If you incorporate that, it jumps to like 4 or 5%. So Kansas then actually has more huntable land accessible to the public than Iowa does. Iowa, for the state size, is like the second worst. I think only one of like the eastern states somewhere has less public that's huntable than Iowa. It's terrible, truly. And guys don't realize that. They come out here thinking, they're going to get on all this public and these big deer. And I'm like, okay, have fun. I'm doing it too.
30 acres here, 30 acres there. Not enough to support a couple vehicles at the trailhead.
There's a lot of times I'll pull into a piece, and if there's one truck there, I just go somewhere else.
What do you think about hunter numbers in the U.S. in general? Do you think they're increasing, staying flat?
I wouldn't be educated enough to know that. Everybody says they're going down. That's what I hear, but I wouldn't have an educated guess on that. I don't pay attention to that too much. I know people, they do their due diligence on talking about hunter numbers, and I don't ever dissuade individuals from going out to hunting. And I think that's kind of just the best I can do.
You want to look at them?
Pull them up. I'm sure something's going on with them.
So they're actually staying flat.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if they're falling significantly because I just kind of go off of what I see every year. And I see just as many people as I did 5 years ago as I do now. Who knows? Again, I'm not an expert with general hunting numbers. I just know that the pressure, at least on the public land, has stayed relatively the same. and if not worse, it's gotten.
Right now, there's about 219,000 paid license holders. In 2000, it was 266. So if you look at the numbers overall across the U.S., it is about 15 million in 2000, and it's 15,650 here. But look at this. Non-resident paid tags, 2.4 million in 2000, 4.5 in 2025. Out-of-state hunters across the U.S. has pretty much doubled since 2000.
Yeah.
Non-resident tags.
That makes sense. I bet you that's very accurate. It's just the popularity of the shows now showing you can go out of state, hunt other places. Plus, the public lands become popular. When I was younger, I dabbled in it. Family would go and push public land or something like that. The concept that there was big deer there and that it was like something you could constantly hunt and actually get on shooter bucks, at least when I was younger, that just wasn't the mentality with anybody I knew. And, that could have been situational with my circle and my family. But I think a lot of shows and social media has popularized public land and shown that there are big deer there. And that's just driven more people to travel out of state, hunt other states, hunt public land more. I think that's kind of devolved us to where we are now.
This public, how many people do you think maybe lose access and get forced to do public and they just say, screw it, I don't want to deal with it. So they just stop hunting. I bet there's a lot of people that just stop hunting because they lose access.
I've talked to a couple guys that are like that, where they lost their private and they go to public for like 1 year and they're just like, I'm not doing that, and especially if they were on good deer and then maybe they lost access because like their lease is crazy now or the landowner wants something or one of the outfitters out here is buying it up or incorporating it in. I've seen that before too. Super commonly, I can't say that, but I know if it was me and I was not as well versed at public land hunting as I am, and I'm still obviously not the greatest in the world. Those guys way better than me. But if I was constantly on a small piece that I was basically free to me or a small amount, I just did some work for the year, killing 160s, and then I had to resort to switching it up all public, and I was in an area that maybe the public was garbo and there wasn't a bunch, I had no knowledge of it, and then that's all I had, I'd probably quit too. That's a big hurdle to overcome and just completely switch up on. I'm just obsessed with hunting, so I might push through, but I can see why the normal guy would just give up.
I showed you these hunter numbers, and it looks like they're up a little bit or flat, but they're really actually going down quite a bit because the population in the United States in 2000, 1 in 22 people hunted. Now it's 1 in 19.
Yeah.
20% drop in people past 25 years per capita.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just think the younger generations aren't as interested in it. You know, I met a lot of people, even my age or younger, that just don't have any want or desire to be out there hunting.
It's all about ambition, man.
I don't know what it is, but I definitely love it.
Back to you. So you started bow hunting when you were 9. How long did it take you to kill your first solo deer?
The second night I was out with a bow, I had shot a small doe. I missed her 3 times too. That's hilarious. Missed her 3 times, but she was just basically standing around like, what's going on? Harvested a small doe. My uncle was in a tree stand about 10 feet away watching me. My father had gone with me the first night, but he had to work that night. I turned 10, and because it was the youth hunt, so I could do that for a couple days. I did my youth hunt, and then I turned 10. I could hunt alone with a bow, and so now we're rolling into the beginning of October, and I was hunting alone, and I shot like a 6-point or something like that. I still have the little skull, the 6-point, just a little guy, like 1-year-old or whatever. So I was pretty successful right off the rip, but I mean, I can't take credit for that. That's my father setting stands.
What kind of stands was he throwing you in at that young age?
Back then they had you're talking the giant ladder stands, I don't know, probably like a Summit or something. Just who knows, man? Just these giant stands. Some of them were double mans and whatnot, all ladder stands with giant chairs and whatnot. I haven't sat a ladder stand and I couldn't tell you how long. All mobile hunting now.
He wasn't making you climb up the hang-ons with the strap-on steps.
No, not at all. He was a very comfortable deer hunter. So he always enjoyed his comfort and when food plots started becoming a thing, he'd do that and the big tower blinds and whatnot. And I got away from that. I never cared for the big tower blinds. Those big ladder stands I thought were clunky. And so I started carrying around, I guess you could call it hanging and hunting, before it was even hanging and hunting, just the hang-ons, the giant hang-ons. I'd go out there and I'd set 2 or 3 hang-ons and then carry one around, and I'd sit weird parts of the farm and whatnot. And you'll never kill a buck over there. You'll never do that. I'd sit some rickety tree, and next thing you know, I'm shooting the biggest deer on the farm. I think that was just everybody was so stuck in their ways. And so I just was getting lucky as a kid being able to get on those bucks like that and surprise them. And I would move the stands all the time. Move the stands or move and set a new spot. And so I think it just more surprised the bucks than anything.
Yeah, there's something to be said about not sitting in the same tree multiple times. You know what my buddy calls that? Hang and bang. Hang and bang.
I mean, that's all I do anymore is I hang and hunt. The only times I ever don't hang and hunt is I don't even have like a permanent stand set up anywhere on public. I never. I've hunted a spot 1 or 2 times in a row and then I'll switch up somewhere, but that's only if I'm on a good buck and I know he's in the area. I might leave the stand overnight, come back in the morning, hunt it again, maybe pull it or leave it again. But I haven't set a permanent stand in 9 years now. But back when I was in Michigan is the last time I set a permanent stand, was about 9 years ago. And that was a permanent stand that I had hung and then come back to Michigan. I run XOP, so an XOP saddle, and then I have their Cold World.
Their what?
Their Cold World tree stand, the hanging out one. So it's just a, run and gun stand. It's a platform.
Are you doing saddle hunting?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, this is, I tried to do it a couple years ago. Wasn't a huge fan of it. It's hard with all the camera gear. But when I was in Wisconsin here, I was using whatever XOP's saddle setup and platform was. I can't even remember what it's called. I use that, and just because I was pushing so deep into the swamps up in Wisconsin, I was like, I'm not carrying this stand again. I did it last year. I'm like, I'm not carrying it this year. And so I made it work with the camera, but it's rough with how big my camera setup is. A lot of the times I was sitting small enough trees that I could reach around the tree and set the camera on the opposite side. And then I'd pull the whole arm around just to keep it from not having to go underneath my my line there.
If the camera wasn't in the picture, what would you prefer to use?
Saddle, just for the lightweight.
Think so?
Just because you could take it. Yeah, you could take it. I mean, just for being lightweight, and I could have just a small bag and I could go anywhere. I would prefer it for that aspect because I go so deep into public sometimes, or I'm so mobile. Guys say they're mobile, but I'm truly mobile. I mean, almost every day of the season, like I said, unless I'm on a good buck, and I want to leave that stand in there overnight. And even then, a lot of times I'll still pull the set and then move it 10 feet, 20 feet, 50 yards over to a different spot. So because I'm so mobile, the saddle's the way to go for me. But because of the camera gear, the stand and sticks really kind of, they're better. It's just better to film out of, in my opinion. But it just obviously sucks. You got the extra weight, the noise going in and out, whatnot. And I will say that I'm not a fan of shooting out of a saddle. The saddle's good for the getting in and out and being mobile, which trumps the actual being in a stand. But trying to shoot from a saddle and doing all that and the finagling and moving around, not a fan. It's only because I'm so mobile that I think the saddle would be number one and why I'd use it.
You're talking about being completely mobile. Fill us in on you show up on this public land. You probably have an idea of the area, but kind of fill us in from when you leave the truck to when you get set up, kind of your thought process and what kind of gets you to where you need to be.
I definitely have an idea. I've obviously picked that area due to something to do with the surrounding area. A lot of times it has to do with what the private property looks like, or if it's vast enough and deep enough to hold in public a mature buck. And I've picked a rough area that I want to go look at. And a lot of times I'll have multiple stand locations kind of in an idea of a line that I can travel through there to go in. And so I get there, I have all my gear. I go to that first spot. And once I've come to that first initial area where I think I'm deep enough, or I think I'm in that pocket or near the private that I could have the good bucks coming off of it, that's where I start almost hunting my way in, I guess you could say. It's not full hunting my way in, but I'll get to that spot and kind of see what the sign looks like, see if it sets up. And I don't always just hunt sign, but if it sets up how I want it to, then, assuming I've never been there, then okay, then I'll throw a hunt there that night. And then the next day, maybe I'll push deeper. And the next day I'll push deeper. And rather than just blow it all out and go all the way to the back, I'll push my way in. I'll kind of hunt my way in by nights or by hunts, like night here, morning here, night here, morning here. And I'll slowly work my way through the piece like that. If I get to that spot and the sign's not there, it just doesn't set up as well, something you couldn't see just from topo maps, or maybe there's like the neighbor has a big stand there, which doesn't always mean I won't hunt that area. Sometimes stands are in the right place for a reason. It just depends on how much you trust the neighbor or another public land hunter. This buck right here, I was in the same tree as some guy's stand. He had it 10 feet below me and I climbed at the backside. It was the only tree to hunt. It was the only tree to hunt, that wind and that location. And so that's just where I had to be. And so I just climbed up the backside of the tree and put my stand above the other guys and hunted the night. And I shot that buck out of it. This buck, there was the guy in the private, which was 80 yards away. He had a stand 40 yards across the fence line. I found out when I went to recover the buck, I went right by his stand. Not always like if I get in and see a stand, will I not hunt that area? But just depends. And like I said, I just try to go, if it's not the first spot, I don't like that, then I'll move a little deeper. And then once I start picking up on what I believe could be, strong, mature buck movement or just good buck movement, picking up on sign, it looks good, it feels good, the wind's doing what I need it to do, that's when I'll usually make the commitment to some type of sit for that evening or the morning, whatever.
So are you ever sitting in the same tree twice, or maybe by chance, but mostly a new tree every sit?
It can be if I hunted it and I had a good hunt, multiple deer coming through, and my entry and exit was just supreme, like using a creek line coming up or a river coming up out of that, boat access, maybe field edge access that then I take like a small ditch or something or a tree line that I know the main deer aren't using, like the main mature bucks would not be using. So I'm not killing what's behind me. I might hunt it, like I said, a couple times. And if I'm going to do that, then I'll just leave the set, get down, come back in the morning, give it a hunt. But a lot of times, no, I'm hunting it once and then I'm out. There's a statistic out there that a lot of big mature bucks are killed like on your first sit, or I can't say statistic. I think it's more like an opinion, but it's your first sit. It's a good sit. Your first sit is your best odds. And then it kind of starts to taper off after that. Like I said, I'll still hunt a spot. For example, this guy, I hunted, it was three days. I hunted an evening. No, it was a morning, then an evening, and then a morning again. And then I killed him in the same spot. And I had just left the set. So I went in the morning, had a good hunt, but it was deep and I was blowing a lot of deer out. But I went back that evening, had another good hunt past like a 140 that evening there. And then I went back in the morning, set up, and it was actually a really slow morning. And I had blown a ton of deer getting in there. So I kind of thought spots toasted. I shouldn't have come back. And I had like a 140s come through that was chasing a doe and actually picked me out of the tree that morning, boogered off. And then finally, I'd only seen like a spike also. And then finally at like 9:30, this guy come off the ridge down into the marsh. And I was able to grunt to him a couple times and get him to kind of wrap a little closer to me and get a chip shot on him. That was kind of a wind switch buck.
Do you think maybe that changed your opinion, but blowing deer out like that, walking into your stand, do you think your hunt's ruined?
Not always. I think it just varies on a lot of different, situations. But I have been numerous times where I've had deer blow at me. Even does come in, blow at me, get behind me. They work off, and then half hour later, I see a good shooter buck and maybe get an opportunity, miss an opportunity, or I just needed him 10 yards, 20 yards. Unless he's coming from a long ways, he had to have heard that doe. And yet he still moved through that area. I'll stick around. Even with him, I was kind of beating myself up. Oh, I should leave. I blew all these deer out, and I just stuck it out. And this is the buck that really made, this is 4 years ago now. He really, 3 years ago now. He really changed my mind on sticking it out no matter what. And so even in Wisconsin, when I plugged that tree, we were talking about in the opener, I plugged that tree, that buck, kind of whooped a couple times and kind of worked off. And there was a little bit of a commotion. And that's Wisconsin too. I still stuck it out. I was like, you never know. Never know. So I just stuck it out.
I don't think it matters. Where I hunt, it's so wide open. You blow deer out, walk into the stand all the time. And especially during the rut, those bucks might be moving 800 yards in a matter of
Oh, yeah.
5 minutes.
Yep. They could come from a half a mile away,
They're constantly moving. I mean, I always try to be out before it gets light out, but if I were happen to sleep in and I was like an hour late, I'd still go out during the rut. Just because you might spook something walking out, but a new flush of deer is going to be there in no time where I'm at.
A lot of times I get right in at daybreak. One, because I'm just a late person and I sleep in. But two, most of my mature buck encounters in the morning are around that 9 to 10 o'clock time frame. It's rare I see them right at daybreak. I mean, I could count on one hand the amount of times I've seen a mature buck right at daybreak in the morning. And then it picks up a little bit from that 8 to 9 period. But then that 9 to 10 period, it's like 90% of my time in the rut. That's when I see good bucks. It's 9 o'clock till 10:30, even out till 11. That is when I see most of my mature bucks in the morning hunts for the rut.
I was going to say even a little bit later.
12:30 is when I killed him. So, in the rut, I almost think that late morning is the best time to be in the stand.
I forgot what we were talking about before you left me, man.
I dipped out, man. I seen that 200 out the window and I had to go for him.
Where's this spotlight at?
Hey, can you? I think, no, not in season, but I think, can you? I don't know. You can legally spotlight for bucks in Iowa. Obviously not shooting them. It's really frowned upon. Like, people do not like it at all. I don't think you can do it in season. I don't think you can do that anywhere. For like velvet, I think you can spotlight for them or something. So I know some guys who do it. I don't partake in that, but
You can spotlight in Iowa during season.
can you? Yeah, so it's how little I know about it, but I know there's some guys that are all about that.
You cannot have a weapon on you, and it's at the DNR's discretion what a weapon is. If you have a knife in your spotlight, they could technically write you up.
I've heard that.
I don't do it now, but when I lived where I hunted, it was pretty fun taking the spotlight out during peak rut because it's so flat, everything square mile sections. You'd get a good view of every single buck in the area.
I've heard it's good, as in terms of figuring out what's out there,
Well, it's just fun to see it. I mean, I wasn't changing how I was hunting because we were doing it, and this was probably 10 years ago. I forgot what we were talking about.
I know we were touching on hunting the same spots on public. Something to do with that. Something to do with that and bouncing around, being truly
Okay,
mobile.
yep.
Something to do with that.
And how much you love saddle hunting.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say love it, but yeah.
Some of that stuff's high tech, man.
I've seen some of the setups, and I mean, they're nice. I just have a basic setup and whatnot. Like I said, I prefer a platform. I really do, like an actual hang on. But I still have the saddle as a tool. That's all it is with anything. That's just like cell cams. It's all a tool. You don't rely on everything 100% falling off the stand here. You don't rely on it all 100%, but you want to definitely still obviously use everything to the best of its ability.
Have a good set of climbing sticks.
Yeah, so I have some XOPs, but I truthfully, and I can say this, I'm not sponsored by XOP this year. I prefer the Tethered One sticks, the originals, the ones that they wanted to recall because I guess they can break or something and like stab into your leg or whatever. They had like inserts in them originally, and I guess once they did it, they pulled them out, and now people complain that they're really hollow sounding. but I never sent mine in. So I just have the original one sticks and I freaking love them. I don't have the money for like the carbon sticks. Maybe they're better. Who knows? But for me, I love that just the little tiny paracord strap and the one sticks are so, the way they go together with the rubber hooks and perfect for mobile hunting. I go up and down a tree in 10 minutes max if it's a hard tree to get it.
I've looked at them now and they're pretty expensive.
They were expensive. I paid 600 for 3, and then I got a buddy to give me one for 150. He was sponsored through him, so they gave him like 9 sticks, and I'm like, sell me one.
Instead of having 3 sets of 3, he's got 2 sets of 4.
Yeah, pretty much. But I was like, that's enough for you. I need 4 though, because I want to go up a tree sometime. I don't want to be 15 feet all the time.
Getting some good sticks makes a world of difference.
I got stealth stripped on the one sticks also, and the way they hook together, they don't clang. I mean, they do if you obviously clang the metal pieces, the actual footwells, but the way they go together is so smooth. They pack in really easy. They're so light. I love the paracord design on them. You can even hang like the aim still aiders off of them, off that little hook on the end. If you really want to get another, like even more, I got one step aiders for them, and I love them. I'm sure with how sticks have evolved in the past 4 years, and there's so many new ones on the market, I'm sure there's ones as good or better on the market now. For my pocketbook and just generally, those one sticks are amazing. And I will never, if I don't have to, I will never go back to another stick unless they're, comparable or something. Nobody's tossing me $500 sticks to play with.
You said you have some XOPs too, or just the stand?
I have some XOPs. They gave them to me when I was with them and whatnot. They're fine for probably the average mobile hunter. The way they connect up together is pretty good. They're obviously heavier. And in my opinion, at least the sets I've been given, every one of them where the top footwell goes onto the stick, they creak like a mofo, man. I mean, you put them on a tree and they just freaking creak. And for bed hunting, I mean, I just can't afford to do that. And so I was getting to the point where if I was specifically getting really close to a buck and I knew I was tight, I just wouldn't take the XOPs with me. And I'd only take them with me and only film them when I was hunting spots that are like predominantly rut spots and whatnot. They're just heavier. They're good for, like I said, the average guy. But if you're serious and you're trying to keep everything as lightweight as possible and packable as possible, I'm all about those one sticks. Nobody's throwing me all these sticks to test out. So that's just what I've been given to use.
Are those the XOP X2s?
Yeah.
Everybody raves about them.
I mean, they're good. They're sturdy. Like that's the one thing, the buckle cam strap and the actual X2s, if you're a bigger dude, I mean, I'm like a $150, man. I'm tiny. So if you're a bigger dude and you want a sturdy, strong stick and you're not bed hunting bucks where you need to be 80 yards from them in early season or late season or whatever, they're a phenomenal stick. I mean, they're beautiful, especially the connection going right onto like the actual XOP stands. Perfect. It'd work great for anybody. But for me, to the extremes that I'm going, the tethered one sticks are they're quieter, they're lighter, they're faster. And the paracord loop going around trees it's just significantly better. I'm not dealing with the cam buckles that might clang on something if it falls down, or I have to pull it out. It's right on the stick. And so I love them. I'm small and pretty agile. Those sticks will kick out on you real easy. I mean, you better know where you're putting your feet. That's for sure. Because if you don't do it just right, you're going to go for a ride. And I've done that before. I've gone for a ride a couple times down the tree.
I've used the Hawk mobile sticks. Man, they're worthless.
Yeah.
The cam buckles on the steps. Who would ever put cam buckles on a mobile step? You're basically adding a half a pound to every step by using those cam buckles.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the cam buckles on much of anything.
Nice to have on the tree stand, though.
It's bad reception out here, man. I never can get good reception.
So when you're getting ready to scout public, when do you do most of your e-scouting? Are you spending a lot of time looking at Google Earth, your hunting apps, and all that stuff before you even step foot on the property?
Oh, yeah, 1,000,000%. I mean, that's 70% of it. And then you got to obviously put the work in. E-scouting is huge between LiDAR and looking at multiple different maps between Onyx and HuntWise, even HuntStand, Google Earth, Google Maps. Like I like to go Google Maps and switch it to the actual off the white view, whatever the actual terrain view. You go through all that. And then, like I said, I use like LiDAR, any mapping service. Some ag companies have mapping tools that are pretty updated. So you can get like crop rotations through them and everything. Onyx is getting pretty good about having all this information now. but sometimes it's not quite fully updated. But yeah, e-scouting is 70% of everything. I mean, I think you can look at an area usually and get a solid idea for, do I even want to hunt this area? Now, I've been fooled before. I've gone into areas that I've been iffy on or I didn't think were good, and there's one buck in there, a good mature buck, and that's where you start getting into overlooked spots, where everybody else is also e-scouting, looking and going, that's nothing. And sure enough, there's a good one in there. But usually once you kind of take him out, a couple years later before there's another big one in there, if another one even uses that area like that. But predominantly e-scouting for sure. And then you just got to get boots on the ground, no matter what time of year it is.
Where are you getting your LiDAR data from?
Currently, it would be HuntWise.
HuntWise has LiDAR?
Yeah.
Is that pretty recent?
Yeah. Yep. Before that, it was like LiDAR or something or other. And even that was broken up. There wasn't a ton. I mean, you could half the time get LiDAR information. Sometimes you could pay for it and get it off of like a random site or something. But the past couple of years, it's been that LiDAR site, and then now it's HuntWise. HuntWise has LiDAR information if you have the full pro with them or whatever they call it. And it's amazing, especially in the hills, like terrain-wise, invaluable. It is a must.
It's a lot better than just like a animated 3D map.
Yep.
What are you using on the LiDAR makes it so valuable?
When I was hunting in Wisconsin, the hills, that's great. And when I do look at some of the hilly type terrain in Iowa, just finding those hidden funnels that you can't see through the trees or even show up on the maps. Because, I mean, sometimes you'll see a ridge and it'll just look like a ridge on the maps. And then you get that LiDAR and you can see small saddles, or you can see old 2-tracks or old benches and or where real deep ravines come up that, you'd have to hunt the head or the base of that. And that would be, impassable. So somebody might come all the way down that long ridge system and set up, and you're expecting to find a cross trail or something to come up. And in reality, the deer are going way wide around you in the rut, all the way at the bottom, all the way at the top, because, there's a huge ditch on one side or something like that. Like I said, hidden saddles, pinch points, funnels. And it's really good because of the way the mapping tool is. You can see really long lines of rut trap. So like on the tops of ridges where all those come together, and maybe you have like a big ridge system with multiple fingers and then a big ridge system over here. And then obviously you can look at it and go, okay, all the ridges come together here. And then you pull up LiDAR, and like I was saying, maybe there's a big ditch here and a big ditch here. And you can see that this one, you can see that it stays just a smidgen, like a foot or two higher over here. And so what you do, you put all those together, and then you have a much smaller area when you get in there to make it a strong, educated hang and hunt, rather than going in there and maybe flubbing it up, or you're 50 yards off, 100 yards off. You can make a really educated guess, even in the dark, about exactly where you need to be in there because of that LiDAR, because it's so detailed.
Yeah, it can pick up elevation changes that you can't pick up.
Anything a foot or more, they pick up. And that's amazing. Even in swamps, a lot of times you can use it to determine where the excessively wet stuff is. And then you can plot out like on Onyx and be like, and then go through there. And this stuff is what's below the boot line. And, it might look like a snake going through there, but it'll pick up just those 10 inches of difference, even just on flat stuff. As long as you have that LiDAR, it's amazing.
Does it pick up the bogs and the marshes? You know what I'm talking about, where it's like a little mound?
Anything that's like 8 to 10 inches, it'll pick up. So you'll get, like in Wisconsin, you'll see those, like I think you're talking about the mounds or whatever. You can actually see that as long as there's, enough of a terrain, variation, you can see it. But a lot of times, like I said, I just use it to map the edges of everything so I can move through. And sometimes you'll get like, where it'll snake, like, obviously like ridge under the water or whatever. It's just slightly higher. So it was really, really useful for Wisconsin and the hills up here in Iowa. I just don't hunt a lot of the hills in Iowa.
Since you started hunting, what's been some of the most valuable, or let's try pinpoint, what's the most valuable tool that's increased your success since you started hunting?
I mean, the most valuable tool, like a tool in and of itself, such a basic answer, but Onyx, it's helped so much. I mean, would I always be out there and putting boots on the ground? Yeah, for sure. But just the ability to find areas looking on maps. I know that's such a basic answer, but it's so true. I think guys that aren't using Onyx or just aren't being well versed in their mobile app and putting a lot of weight in it, don't put your whole season in the app, but spending time, even if you don't have time to get out and put boots on the ground, but spending time like an hour or two, or maybe you got 40 minutes at the end of the night, you're done with the kids or whatnot, just sit down and just scroll through your maps and look at new pieces of public, because you never know what you're going to find on there. And you find something that's interesting and aligns with something, then you can start looking at the other tools. And That might be where you kill your big buck for the year.
Are you looking at the generic imagery in Onyx, or do they have upgraded imagery?
They have upgraded imagery. Just depends on what you pay for. I'll flip through multiple years, any kind of imagery I can get. Every great once in a while, I'll even pay for the where you can have the satellite go over an area and take like updated photos. But I'm only doing that when maybe it looks like on multiple different maps that either the DNR or somebody next to that land is sometimes putting food plots in, sometimes not. Is there no agriculture data from that area this year or from previous years? And I want to know if there is food on public before I dive way in there. And a lot of times I'm not doing that unless it's in season and I want to know what is there specifically, or I want to see these specific in-season trails that I can zoom in on and see the fall deer trails outside of like summer imagery.
You're doing this in Onyx? You're doing on-demand satellite?
Yeah, sometimes. Just depends on the area and if I really want to know what's in there and at that time.
I didn't realize they had that.
Yep, sure do. Or at least they used to. They did last year. I haven't tried to use it this year.
I bet that's cheap.
No. No, it's not cheap, but sometimes it's worth it if there's a big deer there.
Oh, yeah.
Just depends, You got to weigh it out. Am I eating ramen for a week or am I buying on-demand satellite imagery?
There you go, man. How many different like mobile apps or tools are you using all together for like trail cameras, mapping, weather?
I have 2 wind mappings. One's based on the airports and one is just like your general weather condition wind. Shows you pressure and everything like that. But Wind Finder uses all your local airports, small and big, to determine exactly how the wind is, like the speed and what it's blowing at. And it'll lay it out on the maps and you can see. So like, you just look at a big area and your general weather report for like whatever your phone says, like, oh, you're going to have this wind here. And that might be true, but a lot of times, just because of terrain and the way other air features and air currents are moving through that area, you might be in a spot where there's 2 fronts, either together or separating, coming together, and that might shift that wind. And Wind Finder is a really good app because, like I said, it's based off airports. So it's always updated. It's updated like every 2 hours and it's just constantly being updated. And it shows every airport everywhere around you. And then it builds like a model, an animated model. And I found that that's accurate 80-90% of the time. So I'm never getting into an area, if it was, generally when you get a north wind, you get into an area, you have a north wind, whatever, but I'm with bed hunting, I have to be so precise. So if I look at a spot and I need a strong northwest with a hard west kick, I have to have that. Otherwise this spot's boogered and I just wasted my time. And so get on Wind Finder, start going through the area and you find that what you need based on what you're trying to hunt. And sometimes it don't work out and I pull off and move somewhere else and I find that correlating wind. And so that's great for the wind. Then obviously your normal weather report gets you other information. I have Cellcam, so Tacticam, the Reveal app. I get intel. That smaller buck with the big one. He's still a mature buck, by the way, 140-inch drop time buck with the big 2 hundo. He walked through the camera like 20 minutes ago. I got a notification. So I use that. And then I have HuntWise, HuntStand, Onyx, I use Google Earth and Google Maps. And then I even have some farming, I'd have to go through it, but it's like tax record farming information that I can get in and look at crop rotation. And that really works well for most of the United States because it's based on tax records. You can see what was in it last year. So as long as they've consistently farmed it, you can look through 3 years of history. And if you're seeing that they farmed it every year, you can see the rotation, then the rotation that they probably farmed it again this year. So not always. I've gone to public before and they've had a couple years of history and then one off year they farmed it and then they didn't farm it again. But it definitely helps for sure.
What's the need to have Onyx, HuntStand, and HuntWise?
HuntStand, not so much, but HuntWise and Onyx. I think HuntStand is basically HuntWise, but they use different imaging companies. So you get slightly different times a year and image quality over the app. So maybe Onyx will have, updated 2020 imagery for an area, and then HuntWise will have 2018 or 2016, and go to a different area, and then HuntWise will have 2020, 2022, imagery over an area. And then Onyx will be 2015, 2016. So having multiple tools. And then usually HuntWise will be the same as Google Maps, not Google Earth. Google Earth tends to be outdated in my opinion. Not always, but it's usually outdated. But Google Maps, and then you switch to the actual terrain imagery, that tends to be pretty recent. It's like, and it's in it a lot of times too, it's in the fall, which is helpful. Onyx is a lot of summer stuff. HuntWise and especially Google Maps tend to be a lot into that later times of the year, which is obviously more helpful for finding deer trails in flat, swampy areas like I like to hunt, or agricultural areas and things like that. You can look at the maps and, oh, hey, look at that.
So you're spending a lot of time on these apps looking at trail camera pictures and all that stuff. I had to turn my notifications off. I only get my trail camera pictures once a day.
I can't afford a ton of cell cams, so I keep mine on. But yeah, I used to run anywhere from 60 to 90 SD cameras, and I've been cutting down. I went down 3 years ago to like 50. Last year I ran about 25 or 30, and this year I legitimately only have 2 cell cams in the area for the two hundo, and then I have 5 more prepped for when I go in and make hunts. If I don't kill, I'll set a camera, back out. I didn't do hardly any setting cams. I've been around in Iowa enough now. I know the areas for the most part, and I know where there's good deer and there's not good deer, and I'm just kind of waiting. Everybody ragged on me for so long for using the camera so hard, so I'm kind of proving to people. Last year I did it, and I'm going to do it again this year. I have woodsmanship, so I don't just rely on cameras and pictures. I can go out there and kill big deer. I did a ton of velvet filming this year, and I found a ton of good bucks. And I have such a big target list just based on the velvet filming, and then knowing kind of an idea of where they're going to disperse to. Just going to run it, man. Going to run it this year, and then nobody can yell at me and complain. I went out there and found them in velvet, filmed them in velvet, and then went back in season in different areas or whatever and killed them. And that's kind of the goal and the plan.
You haven't got into finding these deer with drones yet?
No, I had a drone for a while, and I never used it, but it was going to be for specifically filming, like just filming my channel and getting like B-roll shots. And I had a buddy down in Missouri send me some drone footage of these bucks coming out of public land. He was filming drone shots for a farmer. And so he just sends me like 15 seconds of footage of these bucks coming, like walking through a bean field. And he's like, oh, here, this would be cool. Public bucks, check it out. And I posted it to the channel. I got so much hate for that. Oh my God. People claiming I'm so unsportsmanlike and all this stuff. I'm like, it's not even my footage, guys. And so after that, I just sold the drone. I'm like, I'm not even going to get caught with one. I don't want no one claiming I shot this 200 and I droned them down or something. I'm like, nope, not doing it.
I mean, if I'm being honest, I hate it. The big thing is now, and all the power to them, they're making money, whatever. But they're getting hired to go scout and like pinpoint these 200-inch deer for people. Like, at what point does the technology get to be too much?
I would never use it for hunting, like actually trying to find a buck. I mean, like recovering a buck, 100%. I think that's an awesome tool, and I think that somebody has to be coming out there specifically for that. B-roll shots for like filming and stuff like that. That's awesome too. Maybe in velvet, if you're outside of season, early summer, summertime, if you're just getting footage of them, that's one thing. But in season, using it to track bucks down, I can see how that's unsportsmanlike. I wouldn't do it. So I'm not going to hate on somebody if it's legal and they do it. Good for you. I just wouldn't do it.
The only reason I'm against finding dead deer with a drone is because there's such a gray area. They're never just out there finding the deer. They're going to do some extracurricular activities.
Yeah. I mean, I want somebody that, if they shoot a big buck, like a 160 or something, I want that buck to be found. It's a rough area. I can see either way, but I know if I had shot a buck and I'm like, this deer's dead, or I'm pretty sure he's dead, bad hit, but this deer's going to die, gut shot. I know he's out here somewhere, and dogs can't get on him. And I've already used a dog and I've body searched. I'd call a thermal drone in to find that buck, but it's a limited situation for sure.
Nobody really uses dogs in Iowa.
There's a whole Iowa thing that, for blood trackers for dogs.
I know, but a lot of people don't utilize it. They go straight to the drones.
Well, I mean, I used a dog for him. So it wasn't as bad a shot as I thought it was originally. It was one lung, liver, and then bat guts because he kind of come in, angled toward me, and I shot him angling to me. But I thought it was just going to be just liver and guts. And he hunched up and walked off, didn't bleed at all. So I'm glad I called the dog in. I would have found him eventually. There was only 2 water sources, and he was right by one of them. So I would have eventually found him myself, but I'm glad I just called the dog. The dog went over the hill and just went right to him. Like, all right, there we go. Done. Half hour.
It wasn't that long ago. Dogs were illegal in Iowa.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I heard. I'm glad they allow them now, though.
Doesn't make any sense. Can you imagine if drones were legal for these Western hunts?
Oh, to hunt down some of those, like, mountain deer or elk?
Yeah. Can you imagine how easy life would be? People do it.
I'm sure. I'm sure. I can only imagine, especially the drones that have the crazy receivers that go, like, 10 miles or something? Fly that over a ridge or two and, hey, look, there's a herd. Come back. Let's go, guys.
At what point is it go from actually hunting to just being about the killing.
Yeah, I wouldn't use it for hunting. I think it's unethical at that point. But if it's legal, I'm not going to say anything on it. I'll let people do what they want to do. Don't come at me, if I'm being legal, doing my own thing just because you don't agree. I'm not going to do the drone stuff, but I get picked on for things I do also.
What would you say if they changed the cellular camera laws?
I think cell cams don't kill bucks. I actually believe that they probably hurt more people than they help. I think limited situations, it probably has killed bucks, but since cell cams have come out, you haven't seen this major large spike in mature bucks being killed. Mature buck's a mature buck no matter what, and he's going to have a lot of advantages to him. On private land, it's probably more useful than it is for public land per se, especially like unpressured private. But at that point, then you start talking like food plots. That deer's coming into that food plot. So just the cell cam telling you he's coming in. Well, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know my unpressured food plot on a cold front is going to be good. So was it the cell cam or educated information? It's not my area. I do think keeping cell cams legal, it's a good tool. And my only reason why is for education purposes. More hunters are educated on what is actively out in an area. I think more guys are willing to pass bigger deer. If you get 2 or 3 guys that have cell cams out there and they're all getting pictures of this 160, and then there's also a 150, and then there's like 2 130s. Well, if nobody had cell cams out there, that same group of average hunters that go out on the weekend, they might just clap those first 2 130s that come in. And that's it. Versus now you might have those guys that pass the 130s because they're chasing these 150s, 160s that they never end up killing. And then nobody kills one, or only one of the 130s ends up getting killed. And a lot of times, just that one pass is all that buck needs to live. I've seen it before where, the buck only gets passed by like 1 or 2 guys. You hear about it in the group, and that's all he was ever had opportunities at. And so if that gets deer to a higher age class, I think that's the solid argument for me is just the educating people what's out there. And I think that's going to get more deer passed.
I want to have Cameron Coble on to have this discussion. You know who he is?
Oh, yeah.
I would bet he's on my page. So my argument against that is you're saying these deer need the pass to get to that next level. Well, if there wasn't cameras, nobody would even know that deer existed in the first place.
But you're still going to have guys hunt that area.
I would almost bet a lot of money the high end of deer has gone down since cameras.
Potentially. I mean, I don't think there's statistics to prove that.
If anybody would know, it'd be Cameron Coble.
Yeah, for sure.
As many deer as he measures.
He's a knowledgeable dude for sure. Like, I respect anything he says, even if I disagree. But my thought is every piece of public is always hunted. If you think you're the only one in there, you're not only incorrect, but you're very incorrect. I mean, at some point, there's going to be guys in there, even if it's a year or 2 old. Pretty much all public is hunted, especially here in Iowa. And so the area is going to get hunted no matter what. So guys going in uneducated are just going to shoot the first good buck that comes by them. And that's going to be that 130s range. I know guys that are educated who hunt public still and shoot 130s. And I'm like, damn, man, you live in Iowa. Like, stop shooting 130s. Like, let's get the age class up. Come on. Let's not contribute here to the downslide. So I think it's going to get hunted no matter what. And guys are going to shoot the first decent buck that comes in if they don't have that information. I would say for the first couple years, that age class is going to survive because a mature buck's going to survive and outsmart your average hunter in the first place for most of the times. I just think after a number of years, you're going to have all mature bucks, and then those are going to start dying off from old age and the occasional hunter picking them off. And then you're just going to have a real weak band 5 to 8 years from now where your age class has been just thinned out hardcore. That's my opinion. Because again, guys are going to just start taking the first good buck. And so your 4-year-olds, and the 3-year-olds and your 2-year-olds are just going to start getting thwacked. And then 5 to 8 years, you're going to have a real thin band age class. That's what I think. I think enough get trickled through right now because of the information. So maybe a couple high-end bucks get picked off because of cell cams, but I think we're at least replenishing it because guys are passing deer. That's just my perspective from what I do and people I associate with. Like, that's what they have told me and what I have seen and what I also would do personally.
The only reason I killed my target buck last year is because of a cell trail camera.
Again, they can be used good and some guys can get on them, but I know I've had cell cams for years and I haven't killed. I mean, no photos. I was sent photos later of the buck. I just had heard rumor, one SD photo of him, but I just knew the area was good based on other photos. No photos of this one. And I've had cameras for years. So the bucks that I end up killing, I don't even have photos anyway. And I run cell cams and SD cams. And I think the opportunities of bucks that I've had on camera like cell camera, and then had an opportunity on, I can count on like only 3 or 4. Most of the time, it's a surprise buck for me, a surprise buck or a buck I don't know about, and I'm just hunting in and around the area, and it's just another deer. So maybe I just suck at shooting target bucks, and I'm good at general deer movement.
See, it's not the cameras or even sending pictures to your phone. It's just deer's in front of your camera and you get a picture within 5 seconds. Is what I don't like. I still do it because I'm not going to put myself at a disadvantage. My perspective of cell trail cameras would change a lot if they mandated a 24-hour delay.
I wouldn't mind that. I would have no issue with that because that still educates people on what's out there. It's better than having to go check an SD camera. Go into a bedding area in the rut to check an SD camera. That's what upsets me.
The thing I don't like, and I still do it because it's legal, I'm not going to put myself at a disadvantage, but if somebody can not even have this area on their mind of where they're going to sit that night and a big buck shows in front of their camera and they completely shift, go out there 30 minutes after they get this buck on picture and shoot them that night, at some point, the deer aren't going to be able to hide.
Yeah, I think that's like partially true, but especially in the rut, man, unless there's like a hot doe there, I've rarely seen a buck blow through an area one time and then turn around and go right back through that area, especially on public. Maybe that does it on private and it's more prevalent, but on public, when I get a picture of a buck at like 9 in the morning and he's cruising somewhere, I'll get a picture of him at 10, a mile and a half away over here, and I'm like, if I went and hunted that spot, it'd be pointless. Like, it shows good deer movement. Go hunt that spot for movement, and if there's a hot doe there, yeah, I've seen it where you get a picture, you slide in and there's a buck's in the area that you're trying to hunt. I guess it's never been successful for me. I have never seen it overtly successful. It has never killed me a buck, and it's only rarely got me in the ballpark of a buck. So to me, I just don't think it's that big of a factor. But if the mandate come out where you had to run it every 24 hours, that's fine, because at least the biggest factor is guys aren't diving into those bedding areas and just thrashing them all season before season. That's a big thing, is like run a bunch of SD cameras and you got guys that want to go check it, and you got guys that already come from out of state, so they're already in season scouting. Big thing is just like, giving that deer the time to breathe. If that's what cameras had to do, cell cam wise, is 24 hours, then sure, that's fine for me, because I'm not using them to hunt them anyway. I just want the information without having to go in there.
I think some states are already getting rid of them.
Yeah, there's a few states that are. And that's kind of another reason why I started separating myself from them last year and this year, just in case they do axe it. I'm not going to be, even if it's only 10 or 20% of my hunting technique, I just don't want to have any reliance on it. I want it to be an additive to where if I, okay, here's an extra. I'm 100%, and then I have an extra 15%. I don't want it to drop me to 80%, and then I have to, in the middle of a season or preseason, I have to figure that out. So I've just been working on my woodsmanship a lot more and just finding them in velvet. It's going to suck for the show because pictures are really good for the show. I'll just have to get encounters. It means I have to be even that much better of a hunter and just have more encounters. You can tell my footage quality, production quality wise, the quality went up because I got a better camera, but some of the pictures and like videos that I was using where I'd like have cameras on video mode and be able to insert that into the actual quality of the hunt for the video from the 23 season to 24 season, huge nosedive. So there was years where I'd go in for like the 24 season, I'd hunt, and then I would glimpse the buck, not get it on camera, or he'd come in, I couldn't turn the camera, put it on him, or I just got real blurry footage of him at like 100 yards. I could still make a whole episode about that because I had trail cameras with, video of the buck and then a couple pictures from that day or the other day or a couple days before that. Now not running cameras really because of that. And this is more of a general camera thing, but not having those cameras, I don't have that information. And so to build a whole hunt out of that and get people to watch 10 minutes of a hunt plus where I'm just like, trust me, bro, that blurry thing was a big buck. It don't work too often. Most guys don't believe you, and the reviewer retention is not good.
It gets expensive running cameras all year.
Unfortunately, yeah. I usually have to save in order to run a few cameras, cell cam wise. I have a little budget just for the season.
Part of the regular living expenses, huh, man?
Pretty much for me, yeah. People don't realize I operate on a shoestring budget every year. So last year, I started the year, I had 2 arrows because one of them, I had shot it in a target. The insert was messed up or something. And so then I shot one and I missed a buck, lost that arrow. So I went down to 1 arrow. Then I shot that buck. And then I had 1 arrow left. And I took that 1 arrow, I got it repaired, I got the insert repaired, went to Wisconsin and then I shot the Wisconsin buck with that. So both this buck and the Wisconsin buck went on one arrow. I called it One Arrow in a Dream. So both episodes, when it comes out here in a couple weeks, both times I'm doing an interview, I'm like, One Arrow in a Dream. And that's all I had. I didn't have the money to go buy new arrows. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't have the money to do that half the time. I don't make a whole lot of money, and I budget my whole year. And if a monthly budget goes over, then I either eat ramen, and that's where I get my extra money from, or I don't have money.
What do you use for broadheads?
I think right now I got some Exodus ones.
Whatever works.
Whatever works is usually what it is. I think past year was Grim Reapers, and the year before that was like Buzz Cuts, and I had some, I couldn't even remember. I don't even know what they were called before that. A lot of times, like I said, my gear is mismatched together of just what people give me, or a show will pay me in product and gear product that they're sponsored through, and I just make stuff work, man. I'm just out there to hunt and try to kill big deer, and that's the best I got.
What do you run for a bow?
An Expedition. I used to have a Hoyt, a really old Hoyt competition bow, because that's what I was given when I was a kid, and I used to do archery leagues. I shot him with it. Cameron Coble, he recovered this buck with me. Yeah, and he's seen the bow, and he's just like, good for you for killing that with that. I was like, thanks, man. I'll take that as a compliment. But I ran that for years, and then the show I do a lot of work for, The Rival, they got sponsored by Expedition, and they were gracious enough to get me a left-handed bow and to upgrade me, and so I've rocked that for the past couple of years.
There you go, man. Well, before we wrap this up, I usually like to, I don't know if I spoiled the surprise, like to have each guest share a couple of embarrassing stories before we send you off. What do you got for us, buddy?
Where do you want to start?
You tell us.
Just in Wisconsin here this last trip a week or so ago, I center punched a big old Wisconsin pine tree.
What happened there?
But luckily, it wasn't at a big shooter buck. Buck coming in, side profile, he looked really good. And as he's coming in off the bed, gets in front of me, and I got to stop him. He turns and looks at me in about this wide. I was like, I'm not shooting that thing. You know, he was tall and had decent mass, but he turned and looked at me, and it's like, there's no width. I'm like, all right, we're not shooting this guy. But now he's looking at me at like 15 yards. So I'm holding and holding and holding and holding. And I didn't have it on him, you know, and I'm just holding. I don't want him to booger off because there could be other bucks deeper in the bedding. And so I'm holding and holding and holding. I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes go by, and I'm sitting there, and I'm starting to shake. And finally he looks away. And so I go to let down, and I don't know what happened. I don't know if my thumb clipped the release or my chin caught it or what. I no more than get about an inch into that, and it goes twing, just whop about 3 feet behind the buck right into a tree. He freaks out. What's going on? He jumps about 40 yards and kind of looks around, and he wasn't sure if he wanted to go back to the bedding. He took a couple steps that way after 5 minutes, and then he come back, and he finally had working his way out and around me.
Hopefully you had more than one arrow.
No, I have some new ones. I got new ones this year. So don't worry. I went from 6 to 5.
There you go.
So we got arrows this year, guys. Don't worry. Yeah, that was funny. That was this year. So I have, if you want more, I have plenty of more stories.
Bring us your worst one next.
My worst one.
Yeah, any bad enough that you haven't told anybody yet?
I'm really open, man. I show everybody all my misses. All my misses. I wouldn't say it's embarrassing. When I wounded Caesar, I made that bad shot him in the neck. He was facing me straight on. I was in a tree. That's out there on YouTube. I got a ton of hate for that. I wouldn't say that's more embarrassing. The embarrassing one is getting busted by the buck the next year. He's come charging in, and I don't know how he caught me, but just flubbed a perfect opportunity. Man, me and that buck had each other's number. I've missed that buck a couple times. He's busted me a couple times. We were so close, cat and mouse. I shot him that once, and man, you could say that whole story is an embarrassment. That's what we'll do. That entire story. If you guys want to check it out, Caesar Saga on Public Land Whitetails. There you go. That entire story. 80% of the episodes with that buck are me missing him busting me shooting him, and wounding him.
Which one is he?
Caesar, he was a big 10, 160-inch 10 the first year. Then I had shot him, wounded him, almost killed him with a terrible neck shot. I don't know how he lived, though. I got a dog on him, and everybody thought he was dead. I mean, there's blood everywhere. I was shooting a 3-blade Grim Reaper, and I hit him right in the neck because he was facing me. And I don't know what happened. I flinched, or I checked the camera, lost my anchor, and I shot that high. And instead of hitting him in the chest, I hit him right in the neck. He lived. I have no clue how. He bled everywhere. Ended up living. That's all on the channel. Full video of it and everything, the shot and whatnot. You guys can pick on me. It was a terrible shot, I know. Yeah, then I chased him next year. He dropped to a 9, probably low 50s. because he lost a bunch on that one side from being shot. And then that year I missed him. There's a whole thing to that. It was like a 50-yard shot. He was already on alert, so he just ducked it. And then he busted me out of the tree once, which was embarrassing. I don't know what happened with that. Apparently I moved or I did something, but he come in, got to like 40 yards and was going to come right down the pipe, and he just dead stops, looked straight up at me. I don't know what I did, but he knew I was there. And like I said, cat and mouse, there's multiple hunts with that buck where he was just out of range. I passed him once the first year that I had shot him when he was 160, like a 160-10. He'd come in, and it was just dark. It was dark in night hunt. Let him go. Just couldn't see him on camera. Yeah, crazy story. A lot of embarrassment with that buck, but humbling, and I share it with everybody just because I'm an average dude, man. It happens. I just so excited every time he would come in. The whole tree would, be shaking. So
Is he still alive?
he disappeared last year. Fell off the face of the earth. So I knew he was a fully mature buck when I met him 3 years ago. He was the big dog of the area, not score-wise, but body-wise, very obviously a mature buck. Neighbors had known about him for a couple years, so I don't know if he ended up passing from old age. We had that small EHD outbreak last year, so maybe that took him. There was a buck that was really lopsided, but the one side was so downhill, you couldn't even tell. He had a spike about this long on one side, and then it looked like a 2-year-old maybe on this side. I couldn't tell you. It was obviously a mature buck. I mean, huge, like a 300-pound deer, massive. Could have been him, and he's just old, like real old, and maybe somebody else wounded him, and I had not heard about it, and so he was downhill, plus messed up. The only way I'm going to know is by going in there this year and hunting. I have no cameras in that area. I just kind of wrote him off as dead. Nobody ever showed last year that I could be like, that's him. And that buck that was all messed up, besides being mature and big-bodied, I couldn't tell you. I have no clue. I body searched that whole area, looked for sheds, couldn't find anything. Maybe somebody killed him late season, and I just never heard about it out there. But who knows? So unfortunately, that story kind of seems like it's ended. But we'll give it a shot. I'll be out there a couple times, and maybe he'll pop up.
Well, I hope you see him, man.
Me too. I'd almost rather shoot him over the 200, but
Don't say that.
I know. We're going to go after the 200. Even like a 180, I'd rather chase that buck. Even if he went down to like 140 inches, at this point, it'd be going on 4 years with the buck. That'd be a really cool story to wrap up.
I get it, man. Well, I appreciate you joining. Good luck to you this season.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you having me.
All right, we'll be in touch.